Started coming to the Collaborate and Elevates, and as we were talking, I talked to Manny one day. I'm like, I want to do something. I want to lead one of these. So he gave me this, and I was thinking about what I can do to provide value to people. For people who don't know me, my name is Chuck Sherbeck. I'm a commercial real estate appraiser. My specialty is manufactured housing communities, mobile home parks. An appraiser, we're not typically outgoing people. Most appraisers, you can tell an outgoing appraiser because an outgoing appraiser will look at your feet instead of his own. The thing that we are really good at is we observe and we evaluate. One of the things that I've seen going around and looking at different real estate types, and one of the things that's kind of impressed me is the successful companies, the successful owners and operators. If I go to, I used to go into nursing homes, and the people that in those nursing homes, the nice ones, the best ones, the owner or the operator would greet each person that he met by name. You go into successful manufactured housing communities, the fact that they have a clubhouse is not one of the things that define them, but how well that clubhouse operates, how well they use it. Are they having birthday parties? Are they inviting people in and creating a community? One of the things that I really like about the Wave is the community that's developed here. So when I want to think about what I want to talk about is when I think about real estate, and I write up things about real estate, I look at the connections, where things are located close to. So one of the things I just kind of, a couple of questions to think about to kind of get into the mindset of this is, what is your favorite place to hang out? You're out with friends, where is that? You go out, what is your favorite place to just kind of be alone? Where do you like to work when you're not in your general office? Do you like to go off somewhere else? Like, I like to come here to work when I'm not at my main office, which is in Polaris. And then how close are those things to where you live? And that's kind of, thinking about those different things, it's kind of one of the ways I think about real estate is, like the Wave. Why is, and an essential question on real estate is, why is it here? Somebody asked me that early in my career, and I thought, that's a dumb question, but that's essentially a key component of real estate is, this building is here because it's on a main road, it's commercial, it's close to this retail. Thinking about these sort of things, a lot of people that have come to this place are in tech or other fields. Sometimes tech and social media can kind of bring us away from the real world, but thinking about real estate and what's going on in real estate and how things are connected, I think will help people come up with ideas to hopefully, how can we have an impact with people that we're connected to in our neighborhoods? How can we have an impact on people that are around us? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring some of the people that I knew in here and talk a little bit about what's going on in Columbus in terms of real estate, and hopefully you guys will get some benefit out of the wisdom that this group has. And then I also wanted to connect on community and networking and things like that. So we brought a second panel in here that will talk on those issues. So first off, I want to bring up my real estate group. So Cal and Alec and Trinae, why don't you come on up and grab a seat, and we'll just kind of go around and do some introductions. So start off with Cal. We've got 2 microphones, so you just have to pass it along. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into real estate?
Yeah, Chuck, thank you so much for having us here. We're all really excited. My name is Cal. Alec and I, we both work for Colliers International here in Columbus. It's a full-service commercial real estate firm. My niche, my ballpark is office leasing. Specifically, I help companies lease office space. help them find the space that fits their business needs, their requirement, and then we help negotiate the lease terms with the landlord.
So my name is Trinae, last name is Williams. I work both with a developer here in town, centralized in the Short North, Victorian Village area. I'm also a licensed realtor in the state of Ohio. So I mainly focus on residential. There are a few commercial leasing opportunities and things like that that I also assist with. So I think we have some similarities here on the panel tonight.
My name is Alec Miller. As Cal said, I work at Colliers as well. My specialty is in retail leasing, primarily mixed use and urban retail. So a lot of high street restaurant, bar, boutique type retail leasing, both on the tenant representation side and on the landlord side as well.
So what trends are you seeing in your segment, and what are some of the things that are causing change in that? Okay. So, is this on?
Can you hear me? Okay. So what trends are you seeing in your segment, and what is causing change?
So in my world of office space and office development, we are seeing, the name of the game is consolidation, right? So it started with, you can go back 20 years ago to the big tech giants out of Silicon Valley who decided they want to push collaboration and creativity to generate ideas, and through that opened up the office environment, very similar to what you're standing in right now or sitting in right now. Through that, and it seemed to work, they also found that reduce real estate footprint and reduce your overhead cost. So it was a genius idea, and the rest of the world soon followed suit. And just now we're starting to figure out why we needed cubicles and why we needed walls in the first place. It's because people can be very loud and obnoxious. So I like to call this, it's the war on productivity. So about 70% of offices in America right now are open floor plans. And now we're starting to see a lot of companies revert back to a more hybrid style where you have collaboration areas, you have private offices for people that need privacy to let their creative juices flow. And then of course you have open space as well.
Yeah, to play off of that, am I on?
Yeah.
Oh, to play off of that, I would say, again, major push for co-working opportunities. A lot of employers are allowing their employees to become a little bit more flexible. So whereas they're not at their desk from the 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever that looks like. So being able to work remotely, switch up their environment and workspaces, whether it be sort of a shared co-working space, or you rent a desk from a couple days a week out of a location, things like that.
So by far in retail, the biggest impact that's happened in recent years is just the change that has come with e-commerce, not only in the types of retailers that are prevalent, but also in the landscape and footprint of the retail real estate world. I think with e-commerce, we realized very quickly that our retail space was overbuilt, and not only have a lot of those e-commerce brands that put a lot of those big box retailers out of business have started coming back to the retail space, understanding the need to have a brick and mortar presence in an omni-channel world, but also as retail footprint shrinks, the opportunity to take existing big box retail space and do new mixed use office, hotel, residential redevelopments in that space and create new live, work, play communities is really what we're seeing right now.
Okay. Thank you. So what in and around Columbus, where's the growth happening? What are the places people are most wanting to be?
Honestly, I think the answer would probably be the same for all three of us. So
Yep.
if I'm off, just let
You can say it all at once.
For me, I would point to where office rents are the highest, and it's apparent. It's the Short North, it's the Arena District, it's Bridge Park in Dublin. In my observation, what makes those rents in those places most desirable is density, right? It's your walkability, it's your ability to be a company and have live, work, and play environment, which is a huge cliche in my industry, but if you're not familiar with live, work, play, you can get up in the morning, get a coffee, and then a few blocks over you go to your office, and then on the first floor of your building you have a bar you can get a tequila shot at the end of the day. And that's live, work, play. So you have that, walkability, and amenities. And I'll leave amenities to Alec, but I think that's your three components for success and high rents.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback off of that, for retail in particular, I mean, the Short North, especially for food and beverage, which about 70% of the growth in retail over the past decade has been in food and beverage and fitness. So I mean, that's just what's out there right now. So for food and beverage in particular, Short North is where people want to be, and we're really seeing an interesting changing of the tides with as more and more development comes to the Short North, new construction rents come in, prices start to rise. Because of the increases in prices, we're actually starting to attract national credit tenants that used to not pay attention to the Short North. So the changing over of the tenants from the mom and pop boutique operators to the regional and national credit tenants is really going to change the face of the Short North as we know it. Companies like Warby Parker, Bonobos, Lululemon. I'm telling you right now, in 10 years, we're gonna have an Apple on High Street. So watching that transition and the rent growth that's happening in the Short North right now is pretty incredible.
To that point as well, you know, with all of the growth happening in the Short North, we're expanding outside of that, right? So we are expanding here in the Milo Grogan areas. I think also north of this area. I think you also mentioned out in Dublin. There's a lot of demand out there as well. So while this area is high demand, I don't see folks steering away from, you know, being adjacent to the Short North.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that again, and you know this well, working with Kevin, as it all continues to densify, we're going to see areas like Victorian Village, the Short North, and Italian Village all merge together. And there's a couple really exciting projects in the works that are kind of on those fringe areas that, if they're done correctly and the city backs them the way that they need to, will really be connecting points for those neighborhoods and create the opportunity for urban traffic, both vehicles and pedestrian traffic, to easily move between those communities, which is something that has never really existed in Columbus before.
Okay, so when I've looked at different aspects of real estate and trying to analyze a place, I often talk to owners and about the sort of things that they look at, and sometimes there's these little things that are. Sometimes I still don't even know what to make of them. One owner that I have who operates a bunch of manufactured housing communities in Kentucky, he's got this thing where he says that his best communities are where his residents can walk to buy milk. I don't know why that particular thing, but that's just a funny little fact that's true. A lot of manufactured housing community investors look for Walmarts. They want to know how far away the nearest Walmart is. If they're in a city without a Walmart, they're not interested. It's the niche, so that's kind of what they're looking for. I'm curious, the panel's opinion. What are some of the things in your different niches that you look for, that people would look for to be near? Like if the doctor's looking to be near a hospital or something like that.
Sure, that's an awesome question, by the way. There's this really funny debate over what drives which. Does retail drive office, or does office drive retail? And any office broker will tell you that, well, the office obviously drives to retail, and Alec will be like, no, it's way off. I might
Look
be,
at the short
yeah.
north.
Yeah.
And no, I might be the only one out there saying that it's absolutely retail that drives the office. And
They make
example,
more money, so it's okay.
example A, example A is the short north. You just have to look at that, look at where they were 10 years ago. You know, Cameron Mitchell going in there and making it what it is now. And office space wasn't something heard of in the short north. And now you have one of the larger tech companies in Central Ohio and Pillar Technology leasing and putting their headquarters in the short north. So it's quite phenomenal to see. Now, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No,
I
yes.
wanted to make that point. So.
I would also say we have a lot of coffee drinkers around here, so
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
are, you know, within walking distance of your favorite coffee shop or your favorite bakery, somewhere you can, you know, jump in or, you know, pop into and grab a bagel, or your favorite lunch spot. If you're in walkability to those locations, I think those are huge factors for people down here to be able to, you know, be on foot. So.
And kind of the flip side of that, I mean, what retail looks for, what those coffee shops, the restaurants, the bars that office wants to have as amenities, what they're looking for is a couple of things. Is one, other retail, right? Synergy is incredibly important in retail. Cal's example with, you know, Cameron Mitchell restaurants in the short north, what they've done, you know, over a period of 20 plus years is built the co-tenancy that they wanted around them, which is incredibly smart. And they've built a very dynamic, synergistic area that doesn't exist elsewhere in the city, and it wouldn't have existed if they didn't open the concepts that they did next to each other. So synergy is huge. Office is going to drive daytime sales. So if you're selling coffee, if you're selling lunch, you need to be by daytime office population, or you're just not going to make it. The flip side of that is you need rooftops to take it through the nights and weekends. So I really think the need for all the different factors is why we're seeing such a push towards mixed-use developments, the live, work, play, where you have all of those in a single project, because they are so codependent on each other for success.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So we're in a co-working space. Eventually, I guess it's a dream of anybody that goes in here to start a business, is to kind of level up and build staff and get a bigger place. As someone is looking to kind of graduate from co-working space and move into, you know, their own space, what are some of the things that they need to understand about real estate to be prepared?
Sure, I guess this is my question. So eventually you're going to graduate from co-working for the reason of you want your own address, you want more privacy, you want to establish your own company brand and culture. So I think what you have to bear in mind when you're going out there into the marketplace to look for your office space is that it's not like signing a residential lease for an apartment where for the most part your terms are going to be fixed. You know, you go to Granby right now, you give them $850 a month and you call it a day. You don't really have much room to negotiate that down. In office leasing, everything and anything is negotiable. That is from your rent, that is your lease term, which, by the way, your minimum for an office lease is 5 years. So you can be married to a space you ever go to for at least 5 years in most spaces that you go to. Your renewal options are negotiable, and the landlord will actually give you money to build out your space if you so desire, and that is negotiable as well, how much tenant improvement allowance that the landlord gives you. So with all that in mind, knowing that everything's negotiable, you're going to a negotiating table with a landlord and a broker that might have 30 plus years of real estate experience in Columbus. And let's just pretend, for example, you're a tech startup going to a negotiating table with a real estate expert. So how do you think that negotiation is going to turn out for you? It's like, kind of like walking into Oracle Arena and challenging Steph Curry to a 3-point contest. You know, it's just not may not go your favor. So that's the reason why we all have jobs. That's the reason why we're here. We're here to help you negotiate. We're here to help you find the space. Also, if you try to Google available office space in Columbus, you may get 30% of what's actually available on the market. So another reason to go to us, we'll give you a full picture of what's available and what's out there for you to lease. Outside of that, and I don't mean to scare anyone, if you are looking to lease space, start thinking about how many employees you have, how many square feet per employee you would like to have allocated to those employees, what kind of term you're looking for, meaning how long you want to be at the space, and then your budget for your rent as well.
So one thing that I think is important for any company to remember, especially a startup, whether you're retail, tech, whatever you're doing, for most small businesses, or actually for most companies, I think across the board, real estate is the second largest line item on their balance sheet next to their labor expense. So what Cal just told you is that you can walk into a situation where you're probably gonna get screwed over and your second biggest expense is gonna be significantly higher, whether that's an actual occupancy cost or upfront capital expenditure, whatever it was, than it should have been, which can have a dramatic impact on your bottom line. So one of the best things about working with somebody like Cal is that even if there is a cost associated with their services, which most of the times there's a way to get that covered by the landlord, they are going to, or working with somebody like me, the value that you're going to get in negotiating a better lease terms over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year lease is worth the weight in gold.
I would agree with those statements too. The other thing is like, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's a lot of like legal jargon in these lease paperwork that most people don't understand. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Take a trusted friend in real estate. If you know someone, if you have a friend that's a lawyer or an attorney who can look over that agreement with you prior to signing, that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of things that are negotiated. So don't be afraid to talk through those points you don't understand.
Yeah, just to reiterate two things that you just mentioned there is, one, don't sign something you don't understand. And that's not just true for a lease, that should just be a general rule of thumb. If you don't understand a contract, don't sign it.
100%.
So make sure you actually understand what you're signing. If you read something and you go, I don't know what that means, figure out what it means before you sign it. And then the second thing that you mentioned, the ask a friend thing, just a kind of caveat to that, I would say real estate is a very, very broad industry, right? Similar to the legal field or the medical field. And just because somebody can do heart surgery doesn't necessarily mean they can do brain surgery. Or just because somebody's a liquor license attorney doesn't mean they're a great criminal defense attorney. So find somebody who's specialized in helping your business with their real estate needs, because every business's real estate needs are specific to that type of business. And there's somebody who is specialized in helping that type of business specifically.
So that's the questions I have. Does anybody out there have a question, anything that they've wanted to know about real estate that we could ask the panel?
Don't be shy.
Thank you all for coming. So my name is Jaden, and I'm currently a senior studying arts management at Ohio State University. So right now we're doing a project based on how to revitalize River South area, if you're familiar with that district. So my question is Short North like reflecting how you wanted the city to represent, or you think that more districts in Columbus should tie in to make Columbus a better place? Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as we grow, we're going to need to have other urban districts pop up, and they've already started to. The River South area, I mean, LC has taken, Edwards Company have both taken some great steps in developing those areas and working to get some tenants to those areas. There's actually some new restaurants that are going to be announced here going to the area that should be announced here in the next week or so. And then moving further south, I mean, you look at the brewery district in German Village, what the Kelly brothers have done down on South High Street with Antiques on High and Ambrose and Eve. That they have plans to really connect South High Street from the brewery district all the way back up to the interchange. So that district will come up. When it will come up is a matter of time, 3-5 years down the road. You look at what's happening in Franklinton, Old Town East, Dublin, Bridge Park. So I think it's only natural that these districts are going to pop up. I think the biggest issue that Columbus is going to have, and the biggest thing we need to try to figure out that other cities have been much more proactive with, is how do we get people to those areas and between those areas. The lack of adequate public transportation to get people, especially in and outside of the CBD, is really restricting the growth of a lot of those areas.
Is that good? Do you have a
Follow-up.
follow-up? Okay.
Yeah, so I know you all are specifically office space and restaurant spaces in the short north. So my other question is, like, these people are working in the short north. Some of them live close to the short north, but then people who are going to the short north don't necessarily are working in the short north are not necessarily able to afford the spaces in the short north. And not just short north, I'm just saying. So, and also, because like my focus is more on like creating spaces for artists and creating spaces for people of my age. So how do you say your responsibility in engaging populations like me in the short north? What's your job?
That's a tough one, because at the end of the day, the action goes where the money is, right? And when you have national companies like Lululemon and Warby Parker coming in who can pay $50 a square foot, which is going to be 100% more than any boutique or gallery is going to pay, it's hard to justify as a landlord or somebody who represents a landlord to make that decision. That being said, I do think that there's an opportunity, both through government interaction and also through trying to take advantage of some of these more emerging markets. Like Franklinton is a perfect example. What Casto did with the River and Rich Development in Franklinton, they were very specific. They didn't want national credit tenants, right? They were going to take risks on local startup tenants, galleries, boutiques, who they felt were going to bring the type of tenants to the area that they wanted to live in their community. So I do think that there are, developers in Columbus tend to, I think more so than in other markets, develop with a conscience. And they try to be inclusive, and I think we're going to see more opportunities for the arts to be the driving force behind a new area, and instead of the short north.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you use your respective talents to connect other people?
I got the mic, I get to go first this time, so you can take my answer if you want. Wow, connecting people. Because of what I do, because I'm a contractor, for my company, I'm the measure guy. I go out and measure everything. So I literally get to meet 30 to 50 people a week, new people. And I'm able to collect business cards, I'm able to make eye contact with people, I'm able to talk to people, I'm able to garner information. And with that little bit of collection of information, who the next person that I meet, someone might need to know, I need a real estate appraiser, I got Chuck. I need to know someone who does music, I got Ezra. You know what I mean? Whatever the case might be. And I keep that information so I don't throw away business cards. Now, my dresser is messy, but I don't throw away business cards because I think that everybody has some type of value. And even though I don't need your card right now, there may be someone, and because I get to make eye contact with people, I can kind of get an idea of of the character. Not always right about things like that. But after a conversation and a business card, I can make a decision right then and there whether I can pass that card on to someone else or pass that information, or I can just say I do not know anyone who does this. But I think it's a desire to know people and a desire to see value in other people. I think I answered your question.
Absolutely.
That was it, no. They did a study in the early 2000s, and they did a study on, it was 30,000 households. That's a big sample size. And what they were trying to determine was, to the extent people made more money, how much more they gave to charity. And what they found is that for every additional dollar that somebody made, they gave 14 more cents to charity. It's nothing surprising about that, right? But they did this over multiple years, and so they were able to actually look at the data, and they were able to look backwards. And they asked the question, for every additional dollar that people gave, how much more did they make? And what they determined was that for every additional dollar that people gave, they made $3.75 more. So doing things for other people is powerful. And they don't have all the answers to that yet. They don't exactly know why it works. They just know it works. And again, 30,000 households, so this statistical significance of that is very high. Part of it, what they think is that when we do things for other people, our bodies secrete, I don't know if that's the right word, but oxytocin, gives off oxytocin. Oxytocin is what you feel when you fall in love. Oxytocin is what women feel when they have children. It's a bonding chemical. And the one thing about that bonding chemical is it certainly makes us feel better, but it makes us healthier. It makes us, to a degree, braver. So if you do something for somebody, you're more likely to pick up the phone and do one more cold call. You do something for somebody, you're more likely to go to that networking event and just hang out. You have a sense of invincibility. You do things for people, you're just healthier. People live longer when they do things for people. So when I learned of that study, for me it wasn't, should I be doing things for people? That's a no-brainer. I should be. The question is what? And for me, the easiest thing to do is to connect people. Everybody I come in contact with, of all the people I come in contact with, there's probably 1% of them that could be a client for me. But 100% of the people I come in contact with, there's somebody I can connect them to. And I can always do something for somebody. And I was sharing earlier, I had a conversation with, I met a woman down in, sounds real sketchy, doesn't it? I met a woman down at Jefferson Mall. No, she was in Cincinnati, I'm in Columbus. So we figured, hey, let's have lunch. And so we got together and, just sitting there talking, and she's brand new in the business she's in. And, before the conversation was over, I just told her, I said, Heather, I'm going to introduce you to this person, this person, this person, and this person. And these are the reasons why. These people, some of these people need you, some of these people you need. And I don't know who was happier, her or me. So I just connect people.
All right, Frank, this is a question just for you, but can you tell us a little bit about the Charitable Roundtable and how you started it, how you kind of got it off the ground?
Okay. Just quickly about my business, I'm not going to get into my business because that wasn't the question, but in general, my business is about networking small business people. Attorneys, accountants, insurance agents, entrepreneurs, small businesses. And I have done that since 1995. Many of you were probably not even. You were 5? Yeah, there you go. You were young. So I've been doing it a long time. And I know lots of people. And back in late 2014, I was sitting thinking about it, and it's like, I know a lot of not-for-profits. I see what's happening in my organization. I bring these entrepreneurs together, and I've seen them grow their businesses. I've seen them share information. And so what I said is, I know these not-for-profits I'm gonna bring a few of them together and see if this can work. Just introduce them. Again, introducing two people, right? So there was a handful of us, 3 or 4, and I sat them down and I said, listen, I know what everybody's biggest problem is. Your biggest problem is money. And this not-for-profit's not gonna tip you off on where they get their money, because that's their money. But I don't know what everybody's second biggest problem is. And maybe if we really stop and start talking about these second biggest problems, we can start to solve them. So that, from that, the Charitable Roundtable was born. Once a month, I invite in any charity that would like to network with other charities. I invite in business people who would like to help with that process, and there are a lot of business people who have hearts of gold that really just want to help, want a place where they can have a meaningful contribution to somebody. And these are small not-for-profits. It's not the United Way. These are small not-for-profits. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Watia. I was telling Watia, there's a guy in town who's got a not-for-profit. All he does is collect gently used sleeping bags for the homeless. That's it. He'll collect money too, and then he'll go to Gander Mountain and they'll sell them when it costs. He's probably generated 1,000 sleeping bags. That's all he does. He sells insurance full-time. That's his little sideline not-for-profit. There are hundreds of these things in town. So these people come together and they share information, ideas. It's neat. It's neat what comes of it. Thank you.
Gavin, can you tell us a little bit about your business and how you use your connections and how you started up your own company?
Let's start with how I started. I used to work for Nationwide Insurance downtown. I watched them build Nationwide Arena. So I'm probably older than most people probably think I am. But I watched them build Nationwide Arena out of the 16th floor of Plaza 3 in Nationwide. And I said I wanted to be out there, you know. And eventually I left my job and started a business painting apartments. I knew that if I got away from there, because Nationwide told me how much they were going to pay me for my time, and I appreciated it. They paid well, actually. And they also would pay for school, and I had started going to school, and then they sent me out of town, I had to drop my classes, and all of those types of things. So I was on a trajectory to where I could have gone really far with Nationwide and done really well. But I also felt within myself that I would like to determine my worth and what I get to charge. And had I known the journey was going to be what it was, maybe I never would have done it. If I had known that sometimes I would live without lights in my apartment, sometimes I would take cold showers, I would probably not have done it. But I did, and I stayed with it. And there were so many days that I wanted to quit. But I got together with, just to make a long story short, my partner, he was a prison guard, and we were friends in high school. So when he left his job, I left Nationwide around the same time. He was installing doors for someone with Lowe's. We decided we were going to get together, and I would work with him. He would work with me on painting. I would work with him on doors. But we were going to be artists. We were going to do murals all over Columbus. We were going to make all this money, and we were going to be, rich and all of this. And eventually, we realized that nobody was going to pay us for our artwork, even though we did a decent job. But it didn't work out. But through a connection that he had a love for playing basketball. He plays basketball. So someone that he knew had that contract with Lowe's. And we worked for him for a year, and we said, hey, listen, if we'll work for you for a year if you turn us on to the person that we need to talk to at Lowe's to get our own contract. He promised us that we would. Before he was even able to keep his word, someone from Lowe's did a site check on us. Some of the high-ups people, they came out and did a site check on the job that we were doing. They liked how we did things. They liked that we were clean. They liked the job that we did, and they offered a contract. So for the last 17 years, I've had a contract with Lowe's. I've never had to fight for work. Sometimes I had to fight to not work, but I've never had to fight for any work. And utilizing contacts, recognizing the intellectual capital in people. never turning someone away because you think they don't know something. Every person in this room has some intellectual capital. Every person in this room has some type of value. And I don't know what you have. I don't know what you're thinking. But through a conversation or whatever, we can birth a business or an opportunity for a business, maybe not even for me to make money, but for you to make money. Or an idea that we talk about here, you may be able to talk to someone else that you meet later on, and it'll wake up something in them, and they'll be able to start a business. And who knows how far that can go. I remember people that would come in when I was selling suits, and when they would come in and they would explain to me how they started their businesses. I have always been a person that is not afraid to talk to people. I'm not afraid to talk in front of people. I'm not afraid to talk to people. And I think that because I recognize the value in people, that's the success I have with networking. So, and it's always eye contact. It's always, you don't even have to compliment people. You don't even have to hound them. You just talk and be more interested in that person than you are in talking about yourself. And that's one thing that I've had success with.
Awesome. Okay, what are you guys, kind of the kings of networking, what are your LinkedIn tips?
I unfortunately do not use LinkedIn that much. My experience
social media.
My experience with social media though is add value to someone else's social media. Comment, share, like. I met Chuck on Periscope playing Pictionary with the guy is a professor at a university in Florida, and he's doing Pictionary, and we're playing a game at night, and we're talking back and forth, talking trash because I'm winning and I'm guessing all of the pictures, and they're like, well, how are you doing this? Well, I'm a robot, that's why, we would say goofy stuff like that, but it comes out that, hey, I'm a Buckeye fan. Well, you're a Buckeye fan, where do you live? And we were able to connect like that. So, but when you're adding value to someone else's thing, you don't go on social media and says, hey, come check out my page. Just the interaction. If I interact with you on my social media and I keep seeing you over and over again, I'm checking your profile. If I like what you're posting, I'm following and I'm commenting. There's a gentleman here, I never met this guy before up until maybe a month ago, but he's just a local artist. We were in a contest together for Blick, and he won the contest, and I commented on his thing saying, hey, you did really good artwork, and it'd be nice to, I'm glad you did. We go back and forth, DM each other eventually. He sets up an art meetup locally, and he actually won the Arnold Schwarzenegger competition art thing. So, but because of that interaction, I made another contact. It's a guy that I can talk to regularly now. So if I want to do some art thing, I have a connection in the art community because he's got a lot of connections. So I think that I answered your question, but use your social media and don't be afraid to add value to someone else's stuff.
How do I follow that? Huh? That's kind of a long-winded story, but there's a place in Tanzania, it's called the Aldavali Gorge, and I won't get into all the geography of it, but the way it's set up, the river came through and just kind of ripped a path through the ground. And in the early 20th century, the early 1900s, they started an anthropological dig there. And the world wars prevented things from happening, but they call it the cradle of humanity because they're able to look back in time. They're able to look back a couple million years, but they're able to look back and see the beginning of humanity. And what they have found is that humans lived together, they worked together, they knew each other, they liked each other, and they trusted each other. And if you didn't have a group then, if you didn't have a tribe, a clan, you didn't survive. You had to have a group. And you had to be known, you had to be liked, you had to be trusted. And so people ask me all the time, it's like, what's the secret to networking? And, do you think LinkedIn is going to change networking or Facebook or Twitter? And my response is no. We have grown relationships out of knowing each other, liking each other, and trusting each other for tens of thousands of years. It's not going to change. So it's really kind of to Gavin's point. When you get on social media, you got to get people to know you, like you, and trust you. Perfect example. I hope I can say this here. I'm going to say it. What do I care? I'm a social media slut. I'll connect with anybody. I'll connect with anybody. So at any rate, you guys can handle this, right? We're a bunch of old codgers. I would hold back. But anyhow, I'll connect with anybody. So I'm having this conversation, such as it is, right? We're going back and forth, messaging each other. She's asking about me, I'm asking about her. Every question she asks, how about you? And then her final question was, or at least at this point in the volley, because we'll probably continue, she said, okay, you're this networking consultant. What's the best way to use LinkedIn? And my response was just like this. LinkedIn is no different than standing in a room and having a conversation. You operate on LinkedIn the same way you operate in the real world. I don't come in here and say, hey, Gavin, you need to buy my stuff, right? You wouldn't do that.
Like I did with Point.
You don't do that, so why would you do it on social media? You just act the same way. You get people to know you, like you, post on their stuff. They start to trust you. And in time, things will happen.
I just want to add, and I can give you kind of some insight into why I'm that way. When I worked for Nationwide, there were people there who literally built profiles of their careers at Nationwide, and their books like this thick. Every accomplishment, every class, every certificate is in this binder, and everyone would just tote these binders around like this was their clout. It was a turnoff to me. It was like, it's like bragging, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm happy that you've done whatever you've done, but to tote around a binder of your successes to flaunt in front of your coworkers or whatever, however they would do it, was a huge turnoff. And so much so, there was a friend of mine was in upper management, and this person, he looked up to this person, but this particular person told him one day, and it was in arrogance, and he said, you know what? And I really believe that he was just jealous of his trajectory also, because he didn't have that type of portfolio. This guy did. And he said, you know what, you're the kind of person that'll just work and you'll end up divorced and unhappy and on drugs or something. And that's what he said to this guy. And I'm like, why would you say something like that to someone? But it really turned my stomach, and it made me, sometimes I'm a little bit too free or whatever, but I learned how not to be stuffy. You know what I mean? Don't be stuffy. Don't present yourself as though don't be so rigid to where you're not afraid to take your jacket off or whatever. I mean, even me sitting up here in a hoodie right now is like, I had to think, okay, I'm Zuckerberg. I'm Zuckerberg. I'm not dressing up. And I had to fight with myself to do that, because I'm like, because there's still part of that corporate America thing that's in me, and all of these years of wearing slacks and having to wear collared shirts and stuff like that, I challenged myself to be a little more laid back this time. So, but it speaks to networking, and I'm kind of glad, because we're both able to come up here and network. I don't knock you for wearing your jacket. I think it looks.
I had no idea.
That's a very classic look, actually. But you go ahead. Next question.
No, next question.
Yeah. Okay. So. Let's talk about people who are shy. So networking is really important, community is really important, people need people, we all need to be in a community, but it's also a lot harder for other people than it is for people like you guys to have the courage to go up to someone and start a conversation, or even show up to the event by themselves.
Here's my great admission. I don't really like to go out to networking events. I mean, I have anxiety just like everybody else. And so I do hear that, the gregarious person is just so much better off. And I don't believe it at all. I don't believe it at all. Networking, again, is about getting people to know you, like you, and trust you. I mean, you hit it right on the head. You have a small talk conversation with somebody. It's not what you have to say. It's what you learn about them. It's about getting them to talk and tell their story. And if you can get them to tell their story and talk and keep them talking, they will think you are the most interesting person in the world and you won't have told them a thing. I see it time and again. I know Cal and I started to have a conversation. Cal's still here. We started to have a conversation and he kind of alluded to that. And I think a lot of times people think of networking as you've got to come to an event like this. And networking really happens anywhere. Networking happens at the office, just kind of befriending the person in the cubicle next to you or someone down the hall. I think the most powerful thing that we can do in networking, I tell people who are in career transition, people who have lost their jobs, the best thing you can do is just get out and volunteer. Get out there and volunteer with an organization.
Use Point.
Yeah, use Point. What a plug.
It's called brand awareness, people.
Yeah. But that's so stop thinking of networking as networking events. Every moment is a networking event. Reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, posting on somebody's Facebook, all those things are networking, and you don't have to be this gregarious people. The most successful people I see who are networking are not the gregarious ones, because the gregarious ones are the ones who are always talking about themselves.
To be honest, I'm like shy, really. Like I was a shy kid. Nobody believes this, but I was a shy kid growing up. I was a little fat kid. Didn't really say much. Pretty quiet. Somewhere around my 20s, I really hit the weight room a lot and got real nice and buff and thin, and I got a little bit of confidence. And after that, I'm like, I ain't scared anymore. Like really, that's what happened to me. But as far as being shy, man, one of the things that helps me with that is that because sometimes that little kid likes to come back out and really be a wallflower and sit in the back of the room and not do anything. Purpose. Sometimes it's like we need it's something inside of me that has to be said. Like I have to overcome being shy to say whatever needs to be said. That's number one. Number two, with overcoming being shy is it's about the other person. I don't have to present myself. I don't have to put all my insecurities out there because I want to know about you. I want to know what's your story. You know what I mean? And I genuinely want your story. And that's part of like sales training. I mean, like when I sold suits, we had to go through like a Zig Ziglar course, and they really told us like some of the points of selling and how you talk about that person. You let that person talk about themselves, and you remember those things, and you bring those things back up the next time you see that person. I mean, there's so many points to selling, and I use that in just networking. I use that in my everyday life. So I ask people questions. I purposely ask people about their dogs or whatever is in their house. When I meet people, I want to know how you got here. What's your story? And I think that helps me. And if that person is shy, that person begins to light up because I've broken the ice with them. And sometimes the shy person can be the icebreaker for the other shy person, and nobody knows that anybody was shy. So that's where I'm at with it.
All right, where can we all find you on social media or your podcast?
I've got cards. I'm happy to hand a card out. Like I said, I'm more than willing to connect with anybody on social media. I don't know. So. LinkedIn certainly. I have a website. I have a business website. I have a personal website, frankagan.com, FRANKAGIN. It shows all the books I've written. It shows all the things I've done, and it's my binder.
Nice.
But it's a connecting point for all the things that I'm connected with.
I am not anti-binder, by the way.
Okay.
But Gavin Evans on Facebook, on Instagram and Twitter is Gav, G-A-V-T-R-A-K 7. I just made it up one day, and that's what stuck. Gav Track 7, Gav, G-A-V-T-R-A-K 7. And that's on Instagram, that's on Twitter. Gavin Evans on LinkedIn and Facebook And my stuff's public. I'm not a secret squirrel, so I'm public. You can follow me and I
That's
talk.
not you though, is it?
That is not me.
Yeah.
That's another guy. I didn't even know it was another guy.
Yeah, he's not doing you any favors.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Let's give them a round of applause. So that concludes our Collaborate and Elevate Volume 7. Everybody give a hand to Chuck Shearbeck. And Mr. Chuck Shearbeck. M-A-I-M-I-C-P, am I correct? Yeah, awesome. So, yeah, we'll catch you guys next month for our next Collaborate and Elevate. Really excited about this. Actually, I would like to just give a shout out. Like, this was one of our first Collaborate and Elevates that was more specialized towards something. So this time it was real estate. You know, usually our Collaborate and Elevates are very generalized. So we wanted to highlight a lot of the entrepreneurs, a lot of the people that are here. So it was really cool to have a nice spin with something like community and real estate, how that ties in. So yeah, that was awesome. So without further ado, we are done. Yeah. Eat the food. Eat the food. Take the food.